Is your debt causing you sleepless nights? Knock your debt out with Debt KO. And your debt won't be the only thing keeping you up at night. Debt KO. Free, impartial advice on all your debt.
This is something that comes along every now and then in generation, and it's special.
Razvan IFL TV in association with MTK Global. After many days of trying to pin him down, I finally have Sky Sports very own Mr. Matthew Macklin. Matt, how are we doing?
I'm good.
Up to much today?
I've got a few bits and pieces to do, yeah. So going to do this, and then I'm going to crack on.
Absolutely. Matt, it's been a few days now, anti-Joshua's victory over Kubrat Pulev. Where do we start? How did you assess his performance first?
I thought it was a good performance. This was his mandatory challenger, a guy who'd only lost once several years ago to Vladimir Klitschko. I still think going into this fight, he hadn't completely got his confidence 100% back from the first Ruiz defeat. I think Saudi Arabia, the performance, he did exactly what he needed to do on that night for that fight. But then we need to see him go on from that and be more assertive. And do you know what I mean? With Ruiz, it was crucial that he didn't make the same mistakes. You know, you're boxing a guy who's got short arms and very fast hands. So it was crucial that he didn't get into exchanges with Ruiz in the rematch. He kept it long and he tied him up when they got close. He controlled that distance and he did exactly what he needed to do for that fight. But he can't do that in every fight. You know, it's horses for courses. So Pulev brought different threats. And I thought he coped really well. I thought he was more assertive. His jab was very good. I really liked his jab to the body. His uppercuts are probably, you know, his signature shot, aren't they? They were brilliant. I thought he boxed very, very well. I think, like I say, I think he was still getting his confidence back from the first Ruiz defeat. Like the rematch Ruiz exercised a lot of demons, probably not all of them completely, you know. So now I think they probably will be, you know, because that now he's had 9 rounds. He's in, you know, he's gone through it again. The nerves, the anticipation, the build up, the tactics, the game plan, everything that he's gone through. And it's been a year. You know, when you speak to any fighter, when you're boxing regularly, you're less nervous. If you boxed only a few weeks ago, you're not that nervous. It's because you're kind of like in the swing of it or something. But when it's been a while since you boxed, the butterflies, you feel them more. So, you know, I think overall it was a very good performance. And he got the knockout in the end as well. So look, he won every round. He got a highlight reel KO in the end as well. You know, what more do you want? You know, people that are going to knock you, what more do you want? I thought he boxed well. And I think he'll be even better the next time. You know, I think he'll be even better now for the next fight because, you know, let's not beat around the bush. The Ruiz loss in New York was catastrophic for him. It was traumatic. It was, you know, and then to have, most fighters would take an interim fight or two to get their confidence back. But because of how big he was and what was riding on it and everything else, you know, I think it was a business decision more so than a boxing decision. I think if it hadn't have been him and who he was and everything that was riding on it, I think all the commercial aspects, I think they wouldn't have gone into an immediate rematch because history says that's not the smart thing to do. But the commercial aspect, the business side of things kind of forced it. Fair play to him and Robert McCracken, who needs a big mention. They got their, you know, they stood tight with each other. They believed in their thing. Robert must have said, look, I want to change a few things here. You're too big upstairs. You're too top heavy. Let's lose some of that upper body weight. Let's think more speed. And he did that in the Ruiz fight. And it was good to see him come in and around that weight again. I think that's his optimum fighting weight now. I think he's found it, which you go up, you come down, you find out where suits you. And I think he's at that now. So I think, look, this fight, I think it was exactly what he needed. I think to have time in the ring, having been out for a year, coming off the back of the last win against Ruiz, you know, he's at, he's had 21 rounds now in 2 fights. You know what I mean? So, and of course, he's been a year out. So I just think, look, I think it ticked a lot of boxes, and I think he'll be. It sets him up nicely now for next year.
Round 3. What did you make of Pulev when he literally turned his whole back? Should that have been stopped, do you think?
I think if the ref had jumped in and stopped it, Pulev couldn't have moaned at all. It'd have been his own fault, for turning his back. If the ref had then waved it off, the ref said, protect yourself at all times. If he'd have turned away and the ref would have waved that fight off, Pulev's team wouldn't have had a leg to stand on in terms of complaining. It was strange, but it did carry on. And, I'm glad it did really, because at least there's no unsatisfactory or controversial opinions or anyone knocking it now. He went on and he knocked him out, you know what I mean, in devastating fashion in the end.
Everyone is talking about what is next. Today I've read a lot of criticism about Anthony Joshua's post-fight interview. A lot of people saying he wasn't open about fighting Fury. Does he really want to fight Fury? We know in the past when he's spoken about Deontay Wilder a lot, and it's come back to bite him back in where the fight hasn't taken place, not at his fault. But do you understand that criticism? Why didn't he shout out Tyson Fury's name? Why was it Eddie Hearn talking about Tyson? Why was Eddie talking about Tyson, not Joshua?
Yeah, I mean, I can't answer that for him. Do you know what I mean? I don't know why he chose not to. I did think it was a little bit strange of an interview, but maybe he just had it in his head that he doesn't want to. I don't know, because I'm going to start surmising now and guessing, and I shouldn't really do that because I don't know what his thoughts are. Yeah, I did find it a bit strange. I mean, he's just put on a devastating knockout. You take one fight at a time, of course, and you believe, with fights aside, it's different. But nonetheless, everyone's talking about Fury and Joshua. And you can put that to your back of mind because you don't want to lose focus. And that's what happened to him against Ruiz the first fight. So I can understand why he'd be particularly sensitive beforehand not to get into talks about Fury or anyone when he had the fight with Pulev a few days away or whatever. But I think when he just done what he'd done and knocked him out, I would personally like to have heard him say, let's do it. Come on, Fury. Wilder's out the way. Pulev's out the way. Let's go. So, yeah, I can understand people saying, it's a bit of a strange interview. Because I thought it was a bit of a strange interview. But I can't tell you what's going on in Anthony Joshua's head. Do you know what I mean? I'm just guessing. So, look, ultimately, I think whatever. I think the fight's going to happen. I think the only sticking point that I see that could possibly fuck it up is if there is some legal situation with Wilder and Fury doing the third fight, although Bob Arum is adamant that as far as they're concerned, legally, they're free to go.
Has Fury made it more difficult for Joshua based on his last performance with Deontay Wilder? Normally, Fury is known as that back foot fighter, controls the distance, jab, feints a lot. In his last fight, he showed he can fight on the front foot. I remember when the bell rang in the first round, he ran to the center of the ring. Has he made it more complicated for Team Joshua to now analyze how to beat Fury?
I mean, it's sorry, someone was trying to ring me then. Look, you hear it all the time. Styles make fights. It's horses for courses, A could beat B, B could beat C, but C could beat A. You know what I mean? It's not all like that. And I think Tyson Fury's proven that he's the number one heavyweight in the world. And I think everyone kind of says, look, he's the number one. But without a doubt, that's followed by Anthony Joshua. They're definitely the best two heavyweights in the world. Now, Wilder was in that pack. But I never thought Wilder was anywhere near as good overall as Fury or Joshua, but he's probably the most dangerous with one punch. He's probably the most dangerous. But I think all round, Joshua is a much better fighter than Deontay Wilder, and he still hits hard enough. Joshua catches you clean, you're gonna be in trouble. So I think he's a much better all-round fighter. He can fight up close. He's got a brilliant uppercuts. He can fight at mid distance. He's 6'6" as well, so he's not small. Do you know what I mean? He's a better long range boxer than Wilder. It's AJ's a harder fight for Fury, much harder fight for Fury than what Wilder was. Although Wilder's, like I say, probably the most dangerous fighter in the world because you can never switch off him because he's got that one punch, take your head off power. The fact that Fury took the fight to him and backed him up and just beat him up, really, yeah, it does make it's more of probably a daunting task now for AJ because they're thinking, well, if he was, I'm guessing, by the way, I don't know what they're thinking, but I'm thinking if I was AJ, you're thinking, well, he took it to Wilder. He wasn't afraid to take it to Wilder. He took it to him and effectively manhandled him, ragdolled him, broke him up, beat him up, and got him. Got the stoppage. So, yeah, there's another aspect now to Fury's game. He's not just an elusive, quick boxer on the outside. He can come forward and take the centre of the ring. But will he look to come forward, take the centre of the ring against Joshua? Don't know. I think, look, Fury's an intelligent guy. When it comes to, he knows his boxing. He's a good, clever boxing tactician. And I don't know, is the answer. But it'd be interesting because will he try and box AJ or will he try and back him up and take it to him? Don't know. It'd be interesting to see.
You said Bob Arum has said that there's no legal issue with, as far as they're concerned, with Deontay Wilder. But another issue that could arise is the WBO situation. Now, we always complain that the governing bodies are not doing their job properly. The WBO actually have come out and said, well, Eddie, we've given you an exception with Ruiz too. We gave you another exception to take this IBF mandatory. You know what has to happen next, i.e. Usyk is supposed to be next. So is the WBO correct in following the guidelines, or should they look at this fight and say it's a historical fight, let them fight for all the belts?
Look, I don't know. The WBO, they've said they've already given Eddie grace twice to do other fights, but I don't think that'll be a problem because I think that Usyk I think they could do a deal with Usyk. I think if he gets step aside money, it might suit Usyk. He had that one fight. He's had two fights at heavyweight, one with Chaz with the spoon, one real one with Chisora. And, it was a hard fight. Chisora was physical. He put him under a lot of pressure. He made him uncomfortable in there. So, maybe having another fight at heavyweight wouldn't be the worst thing in the world for Usyk, just to grow into that weight, get used to that weight even more so. So maybe, if they can do a deal where he gets step-aside money that he's happy with, I don't think that'll be a problem. I think they'll be able to do a deal with Usyk. I think the only sticking point that could potentially make this not happen is Wilder. But, we can only go with what Bob Arum says. And Bob Arum is adamant that they're good to go.
Matt, I just want to quickly ask you about Florin Marku, made his matchroom debut on the show. Don't really want to talk too much about the particular fight itself. Just at the end, further controversy with the judging and the scorecards, gave it level against Jamie Stewart, I believe. Later on after the fight, his manager Sam Jones was like, listen, we move on, we'll come out again end of January. We're hearing this a lot from managers, fighters. Oh, it is what it is. We move on. But shouldn't there be a line drawn? Because it practically can ruin someone's career. You're constantly getting these decisions wrong. And they're not 1 or 2 rounds wrong. We can understand close fights are close fights. But when something is so clear and crystal, they're getting it wrong, but no one is held accountable for it.
Yeah. Listen, this is a debate that'll never, ever get old. You know what I mean? And I think the problem is that you do get close fights and you do get difference in opinions. I think what doesn't do it any good is when you've got loads of people jumping up and screaming robbery every time there's a close fight, because then it just diminishes it when there is a robbery. You know what I mean? It's like going, oh, yeah, fucking hell, here we go again. You know what I mean? It's like, and that's the problem as I see it. A lot of these fights that people that are close, they're not robberies. They're close fights, but you do get robberies, and then when you get a robbery, because you've had people shouting robbery every single week, it's like the boy who cries wolf, isn't it? It's just people just think, oh yeah, whatever, robbery again. You can see that's what people think. It's like You know, I thought Marco won the fight. I had him winning, and I thought he won quite clearly. You know, but there were many fights during fight camp which were very close, and some round either way. And sometimes I was I was on the side that got it, and sometimes I was around the other way and didn't get it. But on those ones when he didn't get it, I didn't think it was a robbery. I wasn't screaming robbery. It was a close fight. You know what I mean? Do you know what I'm saying? So we've got to be careful that every time there's a close fight that doesn't go quite the way we saw it, that we're not jumping up and down, screaming and shouting robbery, because when we do get a robbery there, you've just diminished it.
No, absolutely. Good to see your friend Floyd at the event on Saturday.
Yeah, of course. You know, number one superstar of our generation in boxing, to be there. He added a bit of stardom, star quality to the event, didn't it?
No, absolutely. Well, you're there, Matt, so the stardom was already there. This just enhanced it. Matt, just quickly before I let you go, another one of our Brits in action this week in Texas. Somebody you know well, Joe Gallagher's fighter in Callum Smith takes on Canelo. It's would you say this is Canelo's biggest test outside of 160?
Yeah. You know what? I think, look, Canelo is at the top of his game right now. He's the number one star in boxing. And sometimes fighters like that, when you look back through history, you'll look back at different people when they were at that point, and you think, he was probably unbeatable at that point. You know, he was untouchable. Now, I'm not saying that he is there, Canelo, but, you know, he's almost got that bit of an aura about him now. Like, even coming through the Golovkin fights, he didn't win the first one, in my opinion. He got beaten in the first fight against Golovkin. I thought that was a robbery, by the way. The second one was a close fight. You couldn't argue with that either way, in my opinion. That wouldn't have been a robbery if Golovkin had got it. It definitely wasn't a robbery. That Canelo got it. It was a very close fight. First one, I thought Golovkin got robbed. But he's at that point. Even since that, you know, against Jacobs, he's just looked top draw, hasn't he? He really has. And so you're at that point thinking, oh, is he at that point where he's almost untouchable? You know, and how long will that last for? Who knows? But I do think Callum Smith and Billy Joe Saunders, if there's anyone's going to beat Canelo right now, it's one of those two. I think Callum, because of his size, his power, he's a massive super middleweight. He could move up to like heavyweight and maybe win a world title. Callum Smith. You know, Billy Joe, because of his style, speed of foot, his movement, his southpaw. Canelo don't really like that style. You know, listen, he's a complete fighter and he'll deal with it, but he doesn't like it. You know, Lara gave him problems. Austin Trout, you know, gave him problems. He doesn't really like that quick, slick southpaw style. Listen, I don't know. Callum Smith, Billy Joe. I think if anyone's going to beat Canelo right now, it's got to be one of those two.
What is your prediction? What happens on Saturday night?
I don't know. I can't give a prediction because I'm too invested in Callum. I want him to win. I'm biased. You know what I mean? I've known him since he was a kid, and I really want him to win. So, look, it's hard. Canelo's the number one star in boxing, but listen, Callum Smith's the real deal. You know what I mean? As he's proven. So if Canelo wins, this will be one of the hardest fights he's ever had. That's what I think.
The night before Triple G goes out, do you want to see Triple G Canelo 3? Does that even excite you anymore?
Not really. I mean, I would, and I'd obviously watch it, and you never know. But I just think Golovkin's. I think Golovkin was well on the decline before they fought their first fight. You know what I mean? Like, he's 38 years old, nearly 39. Golovkin. Do you know what I mean? He had 400 amateur fights. He's done a lot of boxing. You know, and you just get older. You know, so look. He didn't fight him when he should have fought him. He dragged it out. He only fought him in the end because he got shamed into it in the end. And even then, they robbed him. But I think that's it now. His time's gone, and Canelo's got better. And I don't think the next fight would even be that close. I think Canelo would be dominant.
I'll end on this, Matt. Sorry, I forgot to ask you. I know we had £1,000 back, and that was obviously great to hear in the stadium, because it sounded more like there's 1,000 people. It sounded like there's probably 5,000 people in the stadium. I believe London's going back into Tier 3, which means no more fans are allowed in indoor and outdoor stadiums. Has this kind of shown negative signs? Obviously, we were hoping 2021 starts and maybe 1,000 will be 2,000 and 3,000. It looks like we're going backwards again. We've got Christmas to come. We've got a lot of mingling to come, and then we just don't know what's going to happen next year now.
I mean, I don't know. I'm not a scientist or a politician, but I think we're getting there, aren't we? We're getting there. Look, it might have to be one step forward, two steps back. Maybe that'll happen a little bit, but I think we're over the worst of it, definitely. And please God, by the summer, we'll be out of it.
Let's hope so. Matt, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time, not just today, but over the last couple of months. It's probably the last interview I'm going to do in 2020 with you, because I know next week's obviously the festive period, so I don't want to disturb you during the festive period. So I want to wish yourself, your family, and everyone around you happy holiday season, obviously, and New Year as well. And I will continue my pestering in 2021 without doubt.
No, you're not pestering at all. More than happy to do it. And likewise, I wish you and your family and everyone close to you, a lovely holiday period, Christmas, New Year, and I'm sure we'll catch up in 2021.
Absolutely. Matthew Macklin, IFL TV, thank you very much.
Comes along every now and then in generation, and it's special.
Is your debt causing you sleepless nights? Knock your debt out with Debt KO. And your debt won't be the only thing keeping you up at night. Debt KO, free, impartial advice on all your debt.